Hey, what's up you guys? It's your local barber coming to you with another video. Today's video is called How to High Taper. This video is pretty much for whoever wants to see a different approach on how to high taper, or just look at certain techniques that I utilize on a day-to-day basis. Regardless of it, I hope you enjoy the video. If you have any questions or concerns or comments, drop them down in the comment section below. If not, enjoy. Peace. Okay, so first I'd like to comb all my hair down. This goes with any haircut. Always comb it down, all in one direction. Okay, so in this case we're doing a high taper. What I will be doing is utilizing that corner on the temple area and finish it off with a slight hook to pretty much give me some darkness around the lining of it, around his ear. You'll be able to see why I do this a little later, but again, this is just to be able to highlight, or at least make that lining around his ear pop when I do the edge outs or the lineup. After I do my guideline, my first bald guideline, I like to bald out the very bottom, or at least that area that I know it's going to be balded out. I do this so that way I don't lose my tracking of where I need to bald out later down the road. So anytime I do some type of guideline that involves a zero, I try to bald out the bottom area to prevent myself from getting mixed up. Okay, so in this part, I am now going to make my guideline, my half guideline. Doing this, I try to give myself about 3/4 of space between the zero and the half. The only reason why you want to give yourself a little bit of space is just a tad bit, is for the fact of room for error. And when I am doing my guidelines after the zero, you try to be symmetrical. And by symmetrical, I'm talking about making it all even throughout every guideline. Typically with beards, I try to kind of just blend it out at the very bottom, with obviously the confirmation from my client. I do this just because it's one of those scenarios where it's like, I feel like every time I'm cutting hair, I put myself into a position of thinking I'm on stage. Anyone that passes by is going to look and automatically judge what's in front of them. In this part, I'm actually creating another guide. In this case, I'm using a 1.5. The reason why I'm using 1.5 is because it's something that I feel super comfortable with when it comes down to later on blending it out with shear over comb. You might do clipper over comb, shear over comb, whichever one. But in my case, I like to, I work well with a 1.5. Again, I'm following that guide, adding a little bit of curvature to it, so that way my taper is symmetrical. Okay, so in this part, we're doing the size 1. Obviously, we have the 0 guideline, the half guideline, and the 1.5 guideline. When I do my 1 guide, I tend to do it right in the middle of the half guideline and the 1.5 guideline. So that I have my 1 guideline, I actually don't fully open up my taper lever. I would say put it right in the middle between closed and half. This is something that just works for me. It's my method that's been working with me for a long time, working for me for a long time. So it's just something that I do. And again, I kind of rely on the motion of my hand. I know my hand looks a little awkward, it's just because I had the camera in front of me. But typically you just want to put yourself in a position where you just let your hand do the motion or the strokes of your clipper. You're not really pressing too hard, you're kind of being light-handed. Always be a little more light-handed. Okay, so now we have 0, half, and 1.5. Since we blended the 1 to the 1.5, the only line that, well, technically should be there is the half guard. Even though it might not seem like it's visible, I always treat it as if it was still there. I just feel like it's good practice. It's always something to kind of rely back on. There will be times where it does come out like that, where you feel like you don't need to blend something out, but with a certain guard. But just always practice. I think it's just good practice in general. Okay, so now we have 0 and the 1.5 that needs to get blended out later down the road. So we already balded out the bottom part, so we don't have to worry about balding out. All we have to do is just getting rid of that guideline down there. Another thing to keep in mind is you always want to make sure your canvas is clean. Again, this kind of goes back to always being on stage sort of approach. And on top of that, I'm pretty sure your client feels super uncomfortable with hair all over his ears, face, and sometimes even inside their mask, especially nowadays with COVID going on. Okay, so now we are going to blend out that 0 line. Again, we're closing it all the way. Slight hand. I'm not pushing super hard. I'm not trying to create other guidelines. You'll see me kind of going with the curvature of it. That's always what you want to do. And another thing to keep in mind is that I would say not always, but with tapers, I sometimes just use the corner of my clipper. The only reason why I do this is because I feel like that's the only way that you can actually be a little more detailed as to where you want to fade out certain things. Again, I'm not trying to take away a lot of the darkness around the ear. That way later down the road I can create that real nice clean edge out. Okay, so in this part I'm just blending out that 0 to half on the beard section. I'm just doing small touch-ups right here. Okay, so typically I will not line someone up until I'm completely done blending everything out. Just for demonstration purposes, I kind of just wanted to do this to showcase to you guys what it could look like, and as to why I kind of gave it that curvature once it got closer to the ear. Alright, so in this part you saw me kind of just like utilize where his hairline is and not pushing it back, and I kind of use that to kind of help me determine where I'm going to be pushing that line to. And again, I always want to use the corner of his most receding part of his head, which is that top corner up there. That should ultimately be one of the best guidelines you can have when lining someone up. Okay, so that already starting to look a lot better. And again, when I try to line people up, I try to find like the heaviest, lightest spot closest to the edge out, or to the edge of the hairline. So you see it like right there, those are all like kind of baby hairs. Just keep in mind, you always try to keep a hairline as natural as possible. Okay, so this part can get a little tricky. If you've never done it before, I suggest you start doing it. It's you can utilize this in so many different ways, but shear over comb. Again, you can do clipper over comb, but me personally, I feel like I can get a little more into the detail, I guess, of where I want to blend something out. Again, this is 1.5, and I'm just gonna blend it out with the shear over comb technique, following the guidelines, the curvature of the guidelines. Again, making sure my hair is combed down. So always try to do very minimal when you're first approaching the shear over comb technique. And then once you catch a flow of it and you get a little more confidence as to how much is being removed, that's when you can like start pushing a little bit more. Again, I'm always looking for some darker heavy spots. There will be times where you might not, you might have already gone over it, but depending on your client's head, there might be some divots, there might be some just like rolls on your client's head, all that, you know, and that's why I choose to do shear over comb technique, because I can actually get into detail a little bit more when clippers fail me. And you always want to like be a little more conservative as to how far you like push in when you're doing the shear over comb technique. You don't want to be pushing in there. You always want to do like 1 or 2 strokes or trials, I guess you would say. So that way you kind of tell how much you're taking it off. Again, looking for those dark spots in there. And here I'm just doing little small touch-ups with the clippers, you know, just dark areas that I feel like I can't get with the shear over comb technique. And every time you want to go back to possibly touching something up, you always want to, again, be conservative and be cautious about it when you approach it. If you feel like something might be like a size 1, then you might want to use a guide 1 and open up the lever again as a precaution. And if then that doesn't hit, then you can hit it with a 1. So I think this should wrap it up. Thank you guys for watching how to high taper. If you have any questions or comments regarding this video or future videos, go ahead and drop it in the comment section below. Subscribe if you'd like to watch more videos, and hopefully I can catch you on the next one. Until then, take care, be safe, peace.